In this episode of Man vs. Marriage, special needs when it does not make me feel so special.
The podcast.
How good do you want your life to be?
It's truly about becoming the best version of yourself that's possible.
This is Man vs. Marriage.
The podcast.
And welcome back to another episode of Man vs. Marriage. It is I, the Q Dog, in the Moran family studio with my lovely wife, Jeannie Moran. Honey, say what's up?
No, I was going to say hi, honey.
Hi, honey. And today we're going to talk to you about something that Jeannie felt was really important, and I concurred once I heard what she had to say, and that is when you have a family with children, or adults for that matter, that have special needs, it can be really, really difficult. Now, here, the disclaimer I want to make here, even though I'm probably going to fail at this miserably once I say what it is it's like, this is not an episode to come commiserate about our misery in life.
No.
That's not the goal here. The goal here is to come and share our heart with what we're going through, what friends of ours are going through. And there's the Hunter Man at the door, and the sign is on the door. The sign is on the door that says we're recording. And don't knock and don't be loud, but there goes the Hunter Man. Anyway, I don't want this to be about us complaining and commiserating in our misery, but more it's a place for us to come and share our experience, share our heart, vent when it's necessary. Because if you do not have special needs in your family, it's a challenge to relate to what we're talking about. And I'll give you this idea. And then, honey, I will let you take it away. Because we have two Jills. We got Jill C. Ray that we're going to talk about, and Jill Anzo that we're going to talk about. But it's been a few weeks, which I'm gonna start again today, but it's been a few weeks since Hunter and I have done his Facebook Live where we talk about 10 keys to a great life. People get on there, they see us talk about these 10 keys to a great life. He's very charming, he has a good time, he laughs, he makes other people laugh, he makes people feel great. And that's the plus side of what you get to see. But there are 23 and a half other hours that are not on Facebook Live, and those are not always pleasant.
They are a mixed bag.
And lately, they've been very, very unpleasant, to the point where me, a grown man, considered one Saturday after Hunter and I were going at it, in a verbal meltdown, where I just about walked up to my room and face planted on the floor and decided to cry until I had no more liquid in my body. I was ready to just cry it all out because it damaged me. And I do know that my son has autism. I get that. It doesn't necessarily make the words any less painful.
Yeah. Well, and you're going through a time of change right now, too. And I think at the time that those words hit, it was just the last strike of the nail to chisel everything away at that point. And that's the hard part, because you're dealing with autism and the boy and life.
Well, the actual last atomic bomb came the next day. But yes, whatever I am doing in my life right now and how I'm trying to advance,
you pissed something off.
the cosmos is really pissed about it and wants me to stop.
Mm-hmm.
But I got the word tattooed on my chest, the word relentless tattooed on my chest for a reason. and it's tattooed in reverse. So when I look in the mirror, I stare at it and I remember that I am relentless in what I do. And there was a nice little message that came to me the other day that I printed out to put on my mirror, which is very interesting. We're talking about this. Anyway, if I read this, it's going to take us in a different direction, so I won't. But
Next episode.
just to set the stage, having special needs kids is a challenge, period. But at least, thank God, at least you get to send them to school during the school year, so you get some sense of downtime. Because when they are at home, depending on your dynamic of special needs,
Yeah.
because I can get my woe is me changed really fast when I come across something on Facebook or TV or YouTube where there's a child that's never spoken a word in their life, and that parent has never even heard their child say, I love you.
Mm-hmm.
And then I look at myself, I step outside of myself, and I look at me, and I kick me in my own balls for feeling bad, for feeling, the pain that I feel based on the words that are spoken to me. Like Hunter said, all the horrible things that he told me. It was so horrible at one point where he said he didn't even want my last name before. He's told me that. And for a guy who has, has a legacy mindset, for his only son that would have had the chance to carry on namesake to say, I don't want your last name, autism or not, that's demoralizing. So I know there's a big pendulum swing here that goes back and forth. There are some people in our community whose kids are so severe as far as special needs goes that they may never say a word. So there are things outside of what I even have the ability to relate to. I can only take my situation and say my heart goes out to you. But we want you to know, if you have special needs in your home, you are not going through this alone. There are those of us out here who are really feeling the pain of this moment, and it's getting harder and harder, and that's causing people that we know, even Jeannie, I would say, for their anxiety to start breaking them down as a human being.
Yeah.
They are starting to lose the battle, and when you do that, you feel like you're alone in the world. Sometimes you feel like you're absolutely alone, and that just causes further destruction. And we want you to know that you are not alone in this situation, and that you may have never met us before, but understand that in some way we can relate to something you are going through, and we're here to say that we have love in our heart for you. We care about what you're going through, and we are here to bridge the gap, because we want you to reach out to us if you're going through it. Just, if nothing else, you can just express your heart, get it out, and then look for a new way to move forward so you can get off the mat. It's what my friends and I talk about. If you know boxing, you can take a knee and you could take a standing 8 count, and then you can get back to work. Taking a knee doesn't mean you lose. It means you got hit with a punch and you can't keep going for the minute. But you can take a standing 8 count after you get up from that knee, and then you can commence to going at it again, fighting to win. Honey, take it from there.
Well, obviously everybody's going through the COVID stuff, so our two have been home since March 13th, and we recently were told that they're going to open up their specialized school, only 5 kids per day, 1 day a week. Okay, cool. So the very first day, Kirsten's bus showed up, and she walked out, grabbed her aide's hand, and got on the bus like it was nothing. And we thought,
we were worried about her just
I was
dipping
panicked.
out.
Yeah, because they told us they have to wear the face mask and this and that. Okay, well, special needs here where we're at, there's a little bit of leeway there because, A, I'll just tell you straight up, if you try to put a face mask on Kiki, you're going to get a beat down. She doesn't like anything on her face, period. So, I mean, a washcloth washing her face is a fight. But they're allowing, as long as the staff is protected, they're allowing that. Now, the other students, some of them will wear face masks or they're keeping them distance, what have you. She got on like she hadn't seen her aide, and it was just like a normal day. Grabbed her hand, so, come on, girl, gets on the bus, and she was perfectly fine. No phone, no music, no nothing, which normally we have to lure her on with something. So she did really good. They came home after school, and her aide just bragged about how good she was, how calm she was. Mind you, this is the same child who tries to shut my phone off and throw things when her teacher calls us to do face-to-face.
How you gonna go to school and be good and calm and come home and be a gorilla?
Well, I have to admit the benefit to having her home and having them on the virtual. Now, personal preference, we have declined all, except for Hunter's sign language, we have shut down all services virtually, except for schoolwork and sign language. Reason being, it's not feasible for me to do that with this many kids in the house and be as many services as they have, and they're 30 minutes apiece. I would be on my phone with them face to face all freaking day long. No. I don't have the patience for it, nor do I want to get my ass kicked and launched across the room when Kirsten decides that she's had enough, because usually that's about the 15 to 30 minute mark. It just depends on the day. Mm-hmm. I'm not putting myself in that position. So it was a joint decision between Quincy and I. We will do the classwork with you as much as possible, and we will let Hunter have his one-on-one for his sign language because he has to have a mode of communication. And right now, that seems to be the only thing that I have that works to calm him. Like this morning, we had an issue with him, and he started yelling at me, and the first thing I have to do is remind him, I'm mom, and you're not allowed to raise your voice at me. Mm-hmm. And there's something that clicks when I do that to him. Hold on, I didn't make you mad. You're not going to yell at me. I'm going to fix it, but you have to stop. He'll calm down for a second. It takes him a split second to realize, oh yeah, you weren't the one that pissed me off. But if I am the one that pissed him off, good luck. But sometimes I have to sign with him while we're speaking, and it engages something in his brain because now he has to pay attention to my sign language and my speech. And it slows down the process for it. It might just be a second, but sometimes that second, thank God, is enough to open the window and say, okay, dude, chill. Other times it doesn't work, but at least we have it. Anyway, Kiki did great. Hunter's turn comes to go to school Wednesday. Unbeknownst to us, now he slept most of the day Tuesday. Tuesday night, he didn't sleep at all. And he had 2 accidents where he didn't make it to the bathroom fast enough, so Dad had to get up and help him. Our son is not capable of taking care of hygiene and things like that on his own. So that has become an area that has been hammered into his head for the last 6 years or so. Dad has to help him with this. This is not an area for Mom anymore because he's a grown man. So that in mind, Dad helped him, got him cleaned up, got him back to bed. We heard him doing his voices and scripting a little bit, but we didn't really realize what was being said or what was going on, I don't think. Got up the next morning. Dad left for work. Hunter's up. He's pacing the floor, and I can hear him pacing the floor and dropping stuff into the floor. So I went to see what he's doing. He's packing his duffel bag. Family pictures, everything out of his drawers in this little bitty 20-inch duffel bag. And I asked him, I was like, what's going on? Well, I'm packing my bag. It's like, for what? Because I'm going to college. No, you're not going to college. You're going to school. He's come into my room. Well, I need to talk to Daddy. It's like, Daddy's not here. And then he's upset because Daddy left without saying goodbye. Well, normally Hunter's asleep when Daddy leaves, so Daddy didn't know that Hunter needed to see Dad before he left that day, because I guarantee you, if Quincy knows that Hunter needs to see him, he's going to stop what he's doing and say hi, even if it's a phone call. So long and short of it, he's been hooked on Blue's Clues, like religiously for a few weeks. And his favorite episode is Steve Goes to College. Mm-hmm. So we didn't know these things were all coming together. We've been having fireside conversations with the girls because they're in high school. They're getting ready to graduate. We're talking about college and what comes next. And, you know, our girls are getting ready to turn 18. They've got one more year of school after this. What are your plans? You know, when you graduate at 19. Okay, in case you haven't caught it, Hunter's 19. and he's graduated high school. So when we're talking about college being the next step, autism, this wonderful tape recorder in his head, has taken just these simple little facts on top of Steve went to college and I'm going to school today to I'm leaving for college. He worked himself up so much. I honestly think that's what caused his problem. He got on the bus, he got to school. He wasn't there in a little over an hour. I get a phone call. He had an accident. He peed himself. And then he had a bowel issue right behind it. And he didn't have enough time to tell his aide, hey, I got to go to the bathroom. Now, mind you, the bathroom is like 10 feet outside the door. So they told me they changed his clothes. They got him cleaned up. It's not a problem. Didn't have a fever. He's not complaining of stomach ache. I explained the situation that I'm pretty sure it's nerves. An hour later, I get another call. You need to come get him. He had another accident. They were trying to get him cleaned up. Would I mind coming down and helping clean him up? Because the staff don't necessarily want to deal with that. They just give him wipes and let him clean himself up. Hunter is not capable of this. Mm-hmm. So I explained to them, I will try, but understand he's going to fight me because it's ingrained in him. Mom does not do this. This is Dad's job. Dad works away from home. Dad's not available right now. So I'm letting them know ahead of time, if he starts fighting me, you're going to have a male step in. That's the only way this is going to work. So his aide was nice enough. God bless his aide. Special man, I'm telling you. He managed to talk Hunter through it with sign language and helped get him to process what needed to be done, and they got him cleaned up. And I brought him home. Once he was home and we got it through his head that you're not leaving home, you're not going to be by yourself, you're not going to college, you're staying here with us and we're going to take care of you, he was fine the rest of the day.
Yeah, until I show up and then he's mad at me again for not letting him move to Idaho when he was 5 years old.
Well, okay, so lately Hunter's been scripting, which if you don't know what scripting is, it is a series of memories, conversations, or things that he thinks are true, and he just says them over and over and over again. And even if you answer him, if the answer is not what he wants or what he expects, he just keeps going back to the script. That tells us that his autism is in control, that he has no control over what's coming out of his mouth right now. Unfortunately, that does not change the fact that what he says is painful. Yeah. And some of the things that he says, he's picked up off of TV shows. He's picked up off of a conversation we've had with another teenager in our house and has decided that, well, it worked for them. And it may just be that he picked it up. But that's what we've been kind of dealing with. Now, we've had some other changes. You know, in the beginning with virtual schooling, we made these signs. And they're simple. I found some cartoon characters that Bubba likes, and I had him color them. And then I typed out the words, you know, I'll be back in 5 minutes. I'll be back in a flash. I need to use the restroom. And it was a picture of Dash from Incredibles. Or he has another one that's has Sheen from Jimmy Neutron because he's kind of the idiot. And Hunter loves him because he's not smart. And I just put on there, I don't understand what you're asking me. Please repeat the question. But Hunter recognizes Sheen as not understanding, so it just kind of worked. And we shared this idea with some other parents, and then it kind of went on Facebook into a special needs group that we have here, and several teachers and parents started using them to flash the screen to say, hey, I need a break, or this is going on. Because we're at home. When you're in a classroom and you have an aide, the aide manages these behaviors. When you're at home and you are the aide, this doesn't work well when you're mom. I have a specific role. My role is nurturing and protecting and taking care of. I manage the behavior when I have to, but when it's school related, these are behaviors that I don't deal with on a regular. So if he sets off, my initial response is to shut everything down, remove him from the situation, fix the behavior, process what's wrong, and then try to go back to it. When he's in school, they redirect and we come back to task. We redirect, we come back to task. That does not work at home. It just doesn't. I don't have the same tools you have. Come to find out, a friend of ours, we'll call her Jill A for now because there's two of them. Her son is younger than ours, and he's higher functioning on some things, but he is also kind of in the moderate range, I think. Yeah. Also autistic. He cannot handle virtual school. He needs the hands-on, tactile, experiential learning. He needs the physical with the schoolwork. He has to. It's the way that his brain works, and it calms him because he's doing something. At home, he has to sit at the computer to watch all of the instruction, to try to do all the work, to process through everything, and he can't sit still. In school, it's okay for them to pace a room because this is the way their classrooms are designed. If I need to pace while I think, it's okay to pace while I think. Well, when you're getting instruction on a computer screen, you can't pace while you think because you can't keep eye contact with the teacher. You can't see what the teacher's doing. And this is frustrating this child to no end. He doesn't get the breaks like he normally does during instruction because you got X amount of time per teacher for this, that, and the other. They're changing classes. He's in middle school. So it's a constant. There's like 5 minutes between class times, but it's all virtual. So he logs in, he logs out, he logs in, he logs out. There's no break. Lunch break is not really a lunch break because you're eating in front of a computer screen.
Yeah.
So this particular mom, I did not know this was happening until recently. Much like me, is dealing with anxiety and stress levels that are way beyond normal.
Very unhealthy.
And she does bodybuilding and she does fitness training, and she is very, very good at keeping herself healthy. And COVID hit and knocked autism on its ass, and that just spun everything in her life. Now, she's got two other kids who are also homeschooling. One is younger and one is high school. So this is a very dynamic. Dad works outside of the home. He helps when he can, which is awesome. He's really, really great with his son. I've seen it myself. His son responds very, very well. But when you don't have that all the time, you can't switch off. Like Quincy and I have a deal. When he comes home, he takes over Hunter. They go into boy time. They go into shower. They have a routine that they try to keep as best as they can while I cook dinner and do the other things. But it gives me a breather because I'm going to tell you, Hunter is on me 24/7 all freaking day long. Mom, 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 mom. So when Quincy comes home, it's like, Dad, 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 Dad. I love you. Here, he's yours. Kirsten is just kind of whoever is available. That's who she's going for at the moment. But she's pretty content at the moment. So this other mom, I shared with her the Inner Size book from John Assaraf the other day. She was just having a horrible moment, and I was like, you know what? I don't know if this will help you. I know that they are a faith-based family, and this guy, he has faith, but he's not very specific as to his religious beliefs. There are some things that he talks about that tells me that it's more of a universe thing than a God thing, which is fine. So I explained that to her and said, if you can handle that and some of the language, check this guy out. I think it will help you. Come to find out, it's actually helping her quite a bit. But her anxiety had gotten so bad that she was derailing her nutrition. She was derailing her workouts. She just could not get a hold of things. So it was helpful. It kind of sucks when you put stuff out there on Facebook and places like that. I think more so just because we don't want that vulnerability. We don't want people to see the shit side of autism.
Yeah.
Because there are a lot of people who are like, oh, special needs is a gift. I am not that person. Okay. There are parts of autism that I think are beautiful because there are times when Kirsten might laugh at something or sense something that we don't. And you look at things a little different. I love those moments. They are not as often as you would think. And it's not that I'm saying autism is horrible. Everybody's is different. But for us right now in the last 6 months, particularly in the last 3 weeks, it has been hell on us and on the dynamics of the house. I can't even imagine what it is for our son.
Right.
I have no idea how fast the gears in his head are spinning right now, but they're obviously spinning because he's grasping onto script
Well, if you just by his actions, the look on his face, and the way that he paces when he talks, he is amped up.
He is pissed.
He is revved, and one thing that Jeannie didn't say is that he has a cousin who was born same day, same year, same hospital, just about an hour and a half later than him. So it's his younger cousin, and she graduated and she went to college, and he knows this.
And she drives a car.
And she got a job, and these are things that she has, but he does not have. And so when she's telling you that he sees these things, he takes them in. The guy truly has no real concept of time because he's 19, and he'll talk about last week when he was 5 years old. So in that sense, he has no concept of what time and how it's relative to where he is now. I mean, he could tell you if it's morning or night, the daytime or the nighttime. He could tell you that. He knows that. But otherwise, he has no real concept of time. So those disappointments, when they get on script, it's like he's reliving that stuff in the moment. And
the emotions come back.
It gets brutal. It gets brutal. And then I know you were talking about Jill Anzo, or Jill B, and what she was putting out and what she's going through.
Hers is a little different. I was talking about Jill A.
I know.
Jill B is trying to work with, hers is high school, and the accommodations are, now, don't get me wrong, I know the schools are working with what they can. And he has a lot of accommodations. He is book smart. He can suck in information and spit it back. He cannot write it properly, and he cannot read large quantities of information at a time. It won't stick, and it's a frustration for him.
Mm-hmm.
And he's supposed to have notes provided, things like that. Well, that's not available at the moment. And so her issue has been meltdowns and freakouts because it looks like a lot to him when he sees all the math problems or he sees all the words that are coming up on the screen, and she's trying to scribble his notes for him. And the hard part is, yes, he could do some of this stuff for himself, but he can't do it at the pace the teacher's giving it.
Mm-hmm.
So mom's having to do that for him, and at the same time trying to help him break down the lesson to understand it. And unfortunately, his autism is very physically aggressive. When he goes into meltdown mode, he physically attacks. And so she is trying to buffer anything she can to keep that part from happening. And she's fighting with the school, but the school can't change what's going on. There's a limitation, and this is the hard part, I think, for a lot of people is, in the special needs community, there are a lot of parents who go immediately to, I'm going to state, I'm going to bring you up on charges, I'm going to complain about this, I'm going to go to the district, blah. They go after people to try to fix what the child needs. If he was in school and these things were happening and he wasn't receiving the proper accommodation, absolutely, I agree with you. Go to bat for this. Given the circumstances we're in, the schools are limited on what they can and cannot provide. And one teacher cannot fix all of these things in a gen ed class.
And all of us, Jill A, Jill B, and the other people within the special needs community, sadly, because their hands are tied and they don't know what to do, are left to pick up the pieces of what this is. It's just not the same for them. And at school, when they have one-on-one or they have these particular...
here it's called strategies classes.
Or they have these particular, whether it's strategies or they have their particular services where they have people that help them, whether it's speech or I can't think of the word right
OT,
now.
PT,
Yeah, maybe.
adaptive.
Yeah, well, you have all those services where people come in that are professionally trained. It's hard enough for them to work through it, but then you put that bad guy responsibility, so to speak, on the parent. It shuffles the dynamic in a worse way, and then it's like, okay, you need to figure this out, school, and they're saying we have no path to figure it out because our hands are tied based on what the government says is, acceptable. So all it does is it turns into a stew full of complication.
It's a huge divide is what it is.
And it really wears on the parents because when the computer goes off, the parents are still at home with the kids, and you can't necessarily turn from teacher's aide teacher and switch off to now,
Mom.
remember, I'm just mom now, or I'm dad. Just remember that. So it's been a grueling experience for the special needs community that we're connected with. And I would say there's a lot of success looking at Kirsten, who started off at less than 5 minutes and now can get up to like 30 minutes of time
On a
on
good
her
day, yeah.
phone. And Hunter, he's very social anyway, so he would be there probably talking the entire 30 to 40, 50
They turn
minutes.
his mic off.
And he's just continually talking and not listening. But it's been extremely challenging. It doesn't appear that, from the administrative side, it was extremely well thought out, but they really didn't have a ton of time to game plan for this. And maybe other people like you out there, maybe you had services that were coming to your house, whether it was for health or OT or PT or any of these things, and those have changed. And when you change somebody's normal routine, it's not in the special needs world, you just don't recover from that in a day or a week, sometimes a month, or sometimes even more. And when somebody is, even though they're going to school, they're getting on a bus, they still get some semblance of independence because they get to leave the house.
Yeah.
And they have to come back. And right now, they're cooped up. Now, other states around our country are actually open, and their kids are going to school. California remains closed. So it seems like it's something that's creating more and more frustration within our household and with our two that are special needs. I think, Hannah is handling it pretty good because she's still going. She's high function enough. She's still doing the school
She's
thing.
actually doing better with virtual school than she did being on campus. And I think that's because the drama factor of trying to fit in and having friends and trying to figure out who she is amongst all sorts of different types of people has been eliminated from her. And now her teacher is smart. Most of her classes are sped except for one or two, but her teacher has been turning off the cameras unless they're talking to you specifically. So you can see the teacher and you can hear the voice of the person talking, but you cannot see the person unless that person is being spoken to specifically. And that eliminates a lot of distraction for her.
Yeah.
But she's also learned through this how to navigate going to find help.
Mm-hmm.
And she's got people who they can screen share. So the teacher is able to actually show her how to click and what to do and where to go to process through how she needs to do her work. I mean, this is the highest grades she's had in her whole life. And she's actually she's proud of herself, which is a big deal. The other aspect of all of this, and this is kind of why I said to Quincy that we needed to do this, all of this takes a toll on everything, but ask yourself, what toll is it taking on your marriage?
Mm-hmm.
And here's why I say that. Quincy and I have been struggling with our communication, just being completely vulnerable and transparent in this because things are high right now. Stress is high, anxiety is high. I have a tendency to shut down when I'm in this position, and I'm trying to work through that. Both of us are drained and tired and exhausted. So sex is kind of on the back burner. It's been It's been, normal for us is several times in a week because we need that connection to get through all this other shit that's going on. And we've been so tired that we've been neglecting that.
Mm-hmm.
And that takes a huge toll on our marriage because that is a huge staple for us
Mm-hmm.
to keep things together. The other part is our conversations. Our in-depth conversations lately have been what's going on with Hunter and how is your heart with everything that was just said. And then it goes into how do we help him? How do we fix this? Then there's other issues and dynamics in the house that I'm offloading my stuff because I don't know what to do with this. And I don't know if I'm being emotional. I don't know if I need to fix something. I don't know if this is a conversation that needs to take place with the kids. It's a lot of stuff. So a lot of our personal, in-depth, quality time has turned into business. Because that's what's in front of us and that's the loudest voice. So the reason I wanted to bring this out is because we're noticing it now and we're making changes in that. And I think I wanted to make sure that the people listening, if this is what's going on, please take a minute and sit down with your spouse and have a one-on-one and say, okay, I see this pattern coming. I see this happening, and redirect it. Because if you let that pattern go for too long, Quincy and I can attest, it will become your norm.
Yeah.
Before you even realize it, it will sneak up and it will take over. And then you'll realize your quality time is not really quality time.
No, it's just offloading all of your frustrations.
It's business.
About family business. And there's got to be a point. There's got to be a point where you have to hit pause on that. It's not going to go away, but you have to hit pause on that and get a mental break. And then, it's really hard to go from a demoralizing conversation about your son and how the horrible things he said broke your spirit, and then go straight into, oh, but let's have sex. That's really difficult. I mean, and I might be the only one, but when I'm demoralized and I'm mentally exhausted and there are, pressures from work that combine with pressures from home, and then other pressures that combine from, family outside of your home, and it's like, how's this supposed to work? How do I get in the mood? Now, there's a few things Jeannie could do to get me in the mood no matter where I am.
Yes, but if you are mentally and emotionally exhausted.
Yeah, the battery runs out fast.
Well, and it's hard to get that true connection. Yeah. We're getting the physical, but that it's, don't get mad, but it becomes an act of service rather than a moment of connection. And that's the difference. That's what I'm trying to point out is when you start noticing these things are going on, maybe you're not noticing it. Maybe this is your first, oh crap, you know what? She has been kind of pulling back. She has been really testy lately. Maybe you've been testy lately. Mm-hmm. Maybe there's been a few snap comments here and there. I'm guilty. I'm the first one to admit he made a comment yesterday and I just about ripped his head off. And it wasn't really anything to rip your head off about. It just happened to hit me the wrong way at the moment.
It's a good thing you didn't, because I'd have probably went back to rip your head off.
Exactly. We like I said, tension is high. We may just need to have a weekend in Vegas and screw everybody.
No, I only screw you, honey.
That's
I'm
not what
going
I meant.
to Vegas to screw a bunch of people.
That's not what I mean, smartass. But the point is, if these things are becoming overwhelming, it's not the kid's fault. And that's the hardest part for me to remind myself is he's not doing it on purpose. Mm-hmm. He doesn't mean the words that are coming out of his mouth, although the emotion behind it may feel like it. I don't really believe he understands a lot of what he's saying. He is going off of a script. But it doesn't take the pain out of it. So
I'm confused there, because I think he does mean it. But he doesn't realize that it didn't just happen.
Yeah.
and he does not know how to let it go, because I looking in his eyes, the dude is reliving it. So he can't compartmentalize it to a place to say, oh, this was 14 years ago, and I understand because we talked through it for 15 minutes yesterday. I understand why you said no, I can't move to Idaho. I understand that. But when he thinks about it, it's happening again.
Well, what I mean is when he says things like that day that he told you you were a bad dad, okay? I don't believe that he means those words. I think he's just pissed off at what's running through his head, because when you ask him about certain things, his answer, Hunter, who helps you with your shower? Dad. I have to wait till Dad gets home, right? Yes. Okay. He wants to do something. He'll ask me. I can, Daddy will take me, right? I can do this with Daddy. It's not that you're a bad dad. I think he's just got so many negatives running in his script, and you're the one constant in that script. I mean, honestly, y'all need to know the reason he wants to go to Idaho is because Grammy and Papa live there. My parents are retired, and my father is a grown child. He'll tell you himself. The man has never grown up. He buys his toys and he plays with them. He's retired. He's allowed to. But our son saw this side of him, and Papa doesn't say no. You want ice cream? Sure, no problem. You want candy? Let's go to the store. You want to ride the ATV? Let's go. Okay, mind you, my son should not be anywhere near an ATV right now. Period. My dad, this is the mindset. My dad was going to let our son drive a go-kart while my dad was in the passenger seat. Do you know how long it took both Quincy and I to convince my 60-something-year-old father at the time he cannot sit in the driver's seat of a go-kart? I don't care that your foot can reach the pedal. He cannot drive the go-kart. Well, it's just across the street. Yeah, and so is the wall to the other house. No, this is not. This is what I'm telling you. He has it in his head that Papa is the fun guy. And the fun guy moved to Idaho when Hunter was 5. That's where all this stems from. His life was he spent probably 60% of his life at my parents' house the first 5 years.
Yeah, well, with all of the, pregnancy complications.
Yeah. It's not it's not a bad thing, but then that was all ripped away from him and completely changed. Mm-hmm. And that's when his autism really started to kind of lock in, and unfortunately ages 0 to 5. Those are the most impressionable years. Well, guess what? This impression sucks.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's something that just continues to happen. Now, we have to wrap this up soon, but if your child has special needs and it's more of a health crisis or a health burden, and maybe you have had to take over that particular health care because people weren't able to come into your house, or however your state worked at. Maybe it was the OT where they come in and they work one-on-one. The hard part is that all that work goes into regression. And now the things that were a routine and the progress that was made may have taken a step back. If that is your only child, maybe you were able to keep it up. For us, our situation, for Jeannie, it's 1 against 9. And that is, as just basic teaching would be fine, but for something that is so hands-on, she's outnumbered clearly. And so there's going to be some regression. Probably in this instance, maybe mostly with Hunter, because Kirsten got on the bus, which we thought she was going to fight and bite and, kick and punch. She got on the bus. She just like, I'm out.
I don't blame her. I do not blame her. Trust me. If I could have got on the bus and taken off, as long as it wasn't taking me to a classroom full of other kids, I would have gone too.
Well, one of the most important points we got to make is that these we are some people who can understand what you're going to, and maybe not necessarily understand it all, but can just relate. You're not alone in this situation. You're not alone in this, and you don't have to suffer alone. There is a way to connect with us where you can just pour your heart out, and if nothing else, sometimes that's a strategy you can use just to lighten your load.
So here's a couple things I would suggest that work, that help for us. One, if you realize that you guys are in this position and these things are happening, please sit down with your spouse and have a one-on-one. And the first thing I would suggest, where's your heart? How is your heart feeling in all of this? Because I can tell you that one question changes my perspective in the conversation very quickly, from how's the house, how are the kids, to how am I?
Mm-hmm.
And you'll get a more honest answer. Second, you have got to take time for yourself. For me, it's taking a bath and reading a book. Sometimes I shut down and I play my farm game. Lately, when I'm cooking dinner and Quincy's on the road coming home, I will start the barbecue, throw his food on, and I'll sit out by the fire pit with a fire and listen or watch one of the Ed Milet's, or I will sit and listen to music or write in my writing journal. Or sometimes I just sit there and be quiet. But I need that time. I'm not going anywhere. If the kids need me, I'm still here. But I need that break. I just need quiet. Being up in my room and working on my book and doing so, I'm still very present in the moment of what's going on in the house. Being outside by the fire pit for 30 minutes by myself is just me and quiet, and I love it. It also helps me to keep from getting pissed off when I don't need to be. The other thing, make sure that you guys are meeting each other's needs. If it's quality time, Quincy and I have made it a point lately, Tuesday nights are date night. The kids know mom and dad are going to have dinner upstairs. We're going to watch a movie. We might watch a movie. We might sit and have a conversation. It just depends, but we make it a point to let them know we're having a date night. Now, obviously, if you have smaller kids, you might have to make your date a little later in the evening. You know, maybe set their bedtime an hour earlier that night, and maybe set a movie up for them where they're in a room and contained, and you can go have a date night in the living room where you're still close, but it's, shut down time. You have to make those things a priority. If you are like me and you need an out, find someone you trust to talk to. Even if you're calling to say, I just need you to listen, I need to offload this. You're not picking on your kid and you're not bitching about them. You are just letting out the stress that's spinning in your head. It's the inner voice that's telling you all of these bad things that you think about yourself. Get them out and let somebody that you trust reaffirm to you, this is not who you are. This is just the circumstance speaking to you.
Right.
I have 3 that I trust wholeheartedly that I can call or show up at any given moment and say, oh my gosh, this, that, and the other with my kid. And they know that it's not my heart about the child. It's just the situation. That would be my biggest suggestion. And if you guys can figure out a way to get as much routine as you possibly can, as much structure as you can to fit your dynamic. Our dynamic is very different. Obviously, we've got 9 kids going on, so it's not like I have every moment of the day structured. But even if you just structure an hour, this is school time, this is what's acceptable. Work it out with the school. This is what we can do. If your kid can't make it the full 6 hours, then let them know that. And work with them, work with the teachers. Maybe you can do 10 minutes per teacher to get the instruction and then get a packet of work sent to you. Some schools are allowing that, where they'll send you a work packet. You do 10 minutes on the computer, the teacher gives you the instruction or emails you the instruction, and you work at the kid's pace. Find what works for you and what works for your child, but do not for any reason feel like you absolutely have to do everything that government is telling you to do. These are your kids.
Right.
You raise them, you teach them, and you do what you can, because ultimately you're mom and dad. When all this is over, when school's finished, you're still mom and dad. And you need to maintain that safe place with your kids as mom and dad.
Well, there you have it. Thank you, honey, for this episode and for coughing into the microphone.
That's
I
my
always appreciate when you do that. Your shirt is only a barrier to the things I really love to look at.
It's your shirt anyway.
It is my shirt. It is not a barrier to sound to keep your coughs out of the microphone.
Shut up. That's what Ashley's for. Love you.
She doesn't do that type of producing. Anyway, here we go. For this special episode of Man vs. Marriage, I am Quincy Moran. She is Jeannie Moran. And this is Man vs. Marriage.
The podcast. How good do you want your life to be?
You gotta live on purpose, for a purpose.
It's truly about becoming the best version of yourself that's possible. This is Man vs. Marriage, the podcast.